You know, and I can't even say that I have been totally vulnerable with another human being yet, you know. I have been vulnerable, but not to the extent that Osho is talking about, to the full extent that vulnerability is capable of being expressed through. I still struggle with that too, you know, even though my heart is awakening and it is widening and it is opening, and vulnerability is allowing me to do this. I'm human, right? I'm human.
One of the videos that you mentioned earlier, you were talking about how being vulnerable with your partner, it can put you in a place of that darkness within your heart. Let's imagine for a second that darkness was dark matter. One of the things that I like to say is that when I'm willing to have my heart broken so it can expand, because a lot of times you may date that certain person that makes you appreciate the final person that you become connected with, because you got some things there, it helped you out and everything, but it's like, even though it sounds a little harsh, it's building towards you having a context of, this is what a bad relationship's like. I understand this is a good one. Instead of like, yeah, I'm not going to be looking for something else, because I know what this is, because this is something that I didn't even know I was looking for until I was in a bunch of bad situations.
Yes, and I would like to read a poem about this very issue.
We'll put some music on while he's getting it out.
Okay.
Look at that, was perfect timing.
Almost. Now I have to find the. Oh, here it is. So this is
here. Everything is.
So this is a poem by Khalil Gibran, a Lebanese poet who came to America in the early 1900s. And,
is he from Lebanon?
He is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he's transformed my life. His poetry has had a major impact on the way that I live my life. And this is his poem from the Prophet on joy and sorrow. Then a woman said, "Speak to us of joy and sorrow." And he answered, "Your joy is your sorrow unmasked. And the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. And how else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. Is not the cup that holds your wine the very cup that was burned in the potter's oven? And is not the lute that soothes your spirit the very wood that was hollowed with knives? When you are joyous, look deep into your heart, and you shall find it is only that which has given you sorrow that is giving you joy. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. Some of you say, joy is greater than sorrow, and others say, nay, sorrow is the greater. But I say unto you, they are inseparable. Together they come, and when one sits alone with you at your board, remember that the other is asleep upon your bed. Verily, you are suspended like scales between your sorrow and your joy. Only when you are empty are you at standstill and balanced. When the treasure keeper lifts you to weigh his gold and his silver, needs must your joy or your sorrow rise or fall. So I think you made a really good point there about when your heart gets broken, it expands and it widens, right? Like you said, the more sorrow carves into your being, the more joy it can contain. The cup that holds your wine was burned in the potter's oven. The lute that soothes your spirit was hollowed with knives. So in that heartbreak, there's an expansion, a widening, a growing of the heart. So now it can contain so much joy, so much beauty, and share that, you know? It becomes so colorful, an infinite lotus unfolding. And with each heartbreak, another petal, another petal. So I think that's a really good point. It's something that I've also been experiencing myself, you know? And vulnerability can lead, and tenderness can lead to heartbreak. But it also, in being so tender and being vulnerable, or beginning to be vulnerable, like I'm beginning to be vulnerable with people in a more deep sort of way in interpersonal relationships. It gives you courage. It gives you courage. And Cornel West said, courage is the enabling virtue of any philosopher or any human being. Courage to think, courage to love, courage to live. So, if in my seeking to make love with life, if I get hurt, if my heart gets broken, bring on the pain. As long as I get to experience life in its multidimensional depths, and I'm not afraid to do so, because of my tender heart and because of its vulnerability and its rawness, and to abide in that and sit with that and express that and be transparent to that. This is the practice. That's the practice. That's the practice. And it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy. Because the moments unfold so rapidly. And so this is where things like freestyling is helping me to respond spontaneously to this unfoldment, and to continue to be vulnerable and not allow for my attachment to a desired end or an attachment to remaining comfortable influence the way that I express the rawness of my heart. And I've gone through a lot of struggles with this. I used to get very down on myself when I felt I wasn't being vulnerable enough with someone who I was experiencing a deep interpersonal relationship with. And that's another thing I learned is being gentle. Gentle with this tenderness, you know? We're only human, and we've all experienced what we've experienced, and they've shaped our how we act today. And it takes time to grow and evolve. The tree is not sprouting in a day.
There's a tree over there.
It takes many, many moons for the tree to be what it is. And so that is all that I have to say on that.
Nice.